is the first phase? What is the first phase of human-centered design? Is it ideation, inspiration, or implementation? If you guys want to chat, write in the chat what the answer is. Let's see what everybody says. So again, the question is, what is the first phase of human-centered design? Is it inspiration, ideation, or implementation? What are your thoughts? Just write one of those. Which one is the first one? Anybody can do it. You just need to write out, just pick one of the phases and write out which one. It's okay if it's not correct. We'll be talking a lot about them in the next couple of days. Inspiration. All right, we see we have a brave soul there, and that is it. That's the first phase. So we are still in the idea of thinking big and coming up with these really big, broad concepts. And so that brings me to the next question of what is the difference between an idea and a concept? And just so you can, chat out some words in the chat there, maybe you could briefly tell me what a concept is. What makes the difference between the concept and the idea? Basically, a concept is an idea, but there are some key components that make it a bit more concrete. Can you name one or two of those? Anybody can write in the chat. Just what makes a concept more concrete than an idea? I'm gonna have to go back and review that. Any ideas? We worked on our opportunity, right? Which was a concept. It was a very concrete concept. Yeah.
Yeah. Kate, you may want to call on some of the participants to a gentle, soft cold call will do the magic.
Sure. All right. Well, let's see here. Who would like to try and answer this? How about Laredo? Can you give us just a quick idea of what it means to have a concept? Or Barotho, you were in my group. You helped to come up with the concept. What would you say differentiates a concept from an idea? Okay, well, I think everyone's still getting caffeinated this afternoon. So really all we're looking for is that a concept is something that's going to be more polished. There's going to be more concrete, more complete and more concrete than an idea. We went through those steps of coming up with all of the ideas, and then we whittled them down to very specific terms. So in our group, we really focused on savings groups. We focused on what that would mean for savings groups, on what a banking product would mean. So it's really just taking these big, broad ideas and focusing them more, adding in the value proposition, adding in a use case, and being much more concrete and specific. Okay, let's move on. So I think Legos, back to you.
Thank you so much, Kate. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning. So essentially, we want to ask questions around how well do your clients actually, or rather, how well do you know your clients' financial lives? Now, in human-centered design, remember, human-centered design takes a whole individual, whole community, whole life cycle perspective by looking at the customer from all the different lenses, from where they take decisions, where they behave, where they source information, and where they actually deploy their investments and their assets. So the first question you want to try to ask and answer is, what's the structure and nature of their social and economic environment? So what surrounds them in their family and community? Personality, how do they tend to think, feel, and act? Decision context, what are the key drivers that influence or form their decisions? Who are the decision makers? Who are the decision influencers? What are the key anchors that drive and, define their decisions? Knowledge and skills, what do they know and what do they know how to do? So what knowledge do they have? What knowledge do they lack? What skills and what capabilities do they have? And then moving that on to behavior. What actually do they end up doing? And then all of this would speak to the available opportunities. So all of this is layered on the back of what options do they have and how satisfied are they with their financial situation. So all of this helps you, holistically understand the financial lives of your clients. Now, it's important in human-centered design that you actually improve your fluency and your understanding of your customer using qualitative methods. Now, what does inspiration require? Inspiration requires a spark, and that spark comes from quality data as well as quality insights about the customer. Qualitative research, on the other hand, is actually a method for observing and collecting non-numerical or non-quantitative data. So while quantitative research tries to collect quantitative data, tries to draw from samples, tries to establish generalizability of the sample characteristics to the overall population, qualitative data uses more of observational methods, where you actually sit down with the customer, where you measure, where you actually deal with lot smaller sample sizes, and then where you are actually more introspective. Now, qualitative methods also help you better understand the client's choice architecture. So what are the various levers that influence the client's choice? So what are the client's needs? What are the client's desires? What are the client's aspirations? And what are the underlying assumptions this client has about the world? What are the client's worldviews? Also, qualitative research also helps you understand context, because in financial services, context plays a very significant role. So what's the context in which behaviors are created, formed, ingrained? To what extent does culture influence behavior? And to what extent can behavior evolve or devolve from the underlying culture of the context? Now, what are the relational dynamics between people, places, objects, and institutions? What are the sources of causality? What are the sources of affection? How do these elements relate with each other? Which is driving which? Is it people? Is it places? Is it objects? Is it institutions? Now, in collecting qualitative data, remember, yesterday we talked about concept development. Now, after developing the concept, you actually use qualitative research methods in testing that concept. So concept testing is that process of exploring the financial behavior, the needs, the motivations, and the aspirations of target segments to better understand how a solution concept may be important to a target market. So you already have an idea, and this idea has been fleshed out into a concept. Now you want to actually test this concept, and you want to explore to what extent does this concept meet the behavior, the needs, the motivations, and the aspirations of the target segments that you're actually trying to design the solution for. So ultimately, you want to try to sort of ask, to what extent will this concept fit into the use cases for this product you're trying to create. Now, what are some of the steps in concept testing? So I'm going to walk you through all of these. The first is actually developing what we typically call a learning agenda. The second is developing a research plan. The third is assignment of roles. The fourth is engaging target segments in individual and discussion groups. And the last is actually synthesizing findings into persona worksheets. So let me walk you through each of these stages. Now, what does the learning agenda try to sort of help us achieve? The learning agenda gives us a sneak peek into the lives of a customer. Now, when should the learning agenda be used? The learning agenda should be used during research to ensure that we understand all the assumptions around the target user, and that we actually develop, curate, and execute a research plan that speaks to all the aspirations and needs of the target group. So in the learning agenda, you want to ask critical questions like basic demographics. So what's your age, sex, location, educational level, occupation, household size, level of literacy, and usage. You want to also ask questions like what assets do you own, what assets do you use, mobile phone, etc. You want to ask questions like family context. So what's your marital status? What's your economic role in the household? Who owns and who controls money? What's your financial role in the household? Given the size of the household, what's your financial role? Are you a head of household? What access do you have to household finances? To what extent are you able to access or utilize financial tools? What access do you have to mobile devices? Now, context further moves into finances. So you want to ask questions like, what's the income level of the individual? What's the income level of the household? What are the periods for income? So do you earn your paycheck 2 weeks to 2 weeks, or do you earn your paycheck monthly, or do you earn quarterly? If you actually run a business, what's the seasonality and what are the cash flow dependencies that sort of determine the volatility and the reliability of your income expectations? Same goes for expenses. What are the expense levels? What are the expense periods, reliabilities, and volatilities? What level of financial reserves do you have? How much receivables can you have? And then to what extent can your social networks help you provide finances? So if you run into difficulty, if you're sick, or if you have a child going into university, etc., are you able to rely on your social networks to raise funding for such events? What social financial service access do you have? What formal financial service access do you have? Social safety nets, public safety nets. Now you also want to find out things like financial behaviors, strategies, and tools. So what are the financial behaviors that shape income? And what strategies do you use to enhance or consume your income in the form of expenses? What tools do you have at your disposal? How do you actually build reserves? How do you cultivate receivables? How do you plan and prioritize? And how do you also use formal financial services to achieve your goals and aspirations? How do you use social financial services and relationships? Now, the next is motivations. What are your motivations? What are your financial needs? What are your financial goals and aspirations? And what are your financial challenges? And then last but not the least are your attitudes. So to what extent do you perceive financial services available by financial service providers to be complex or simple? What's your orientation to collecting credit? Are you credit averse? Are you credit receptive? Do you have a good understanding of the role of credit and the need to repay credit? What's your degree of openness? And what safety nets do you have for savings? To what extent do you trust people? Do you trust financial providers and banks? And do you also trust social financial networks. So all of these help define your learning agenda. So it's my belief and hope that you all have watched the videos on eLearn. Now, when you typically want to go into the field, you want to assign roles like facilitator. Now, the facilitator should be the lead interviewer, while the backstop should be the support interviewer. So when you come to the field with the overall learning agenda, the facilitator leads the interviewing process. So it's very important to realize that this interviewing process has to be a process that is respectful, a process where you actually reduce power distance between you and the interviewee, and a situation where as much as possible you subject or you apply yourself to the natural context in which the interviewer either lives or trades. So the lead interviewer is there leading the questioning, while the support interviewer is there to make sure that no questions have been left out by the lead interviewer. Now, the note taker is also different. The note taker is actively taking notes. The photographer is taking photographs, understanding body language, etc. And then there may be a need for a translator in a situation where the lead interviewer speaks a different language from the respondent. So all of these are things we're also going to practice at this time. So, you have your customer interview worksheets, and then the household financial map. So the household financial map is also an extremely powerful tool that actually helps you better understand how your customers currently manage their finances in response to a range of possible scenarios. Now, what does the household financial map do? It helps you draw out experiences, relationships, and attitudes that actually drive financial decisions. So the first question you actually want to ask in helping you define the financial map of a household are aspirations. So what are these households' aspirations or desires for the future? In what particular order? So they want to own a house, they want to stack up investments, they want to build a farm, they want to establish a school, etc. So what are the aspirations, and what's the hierarchy of these aspirations? Now, what's their income? So how does money come into the household in a normal week? What are the sources? What are the magnitudes? What are the dependencies, and what are the volatilities? Now, what obstacles do they face that actually can prevent them from achieving their aspirations? So are these obstacles macro level or in-household level obstacles? And to what extent are these obstacles going to hamper or affect the aspirations? What assets do they have? So what are their most valuable possessions? So it's very important you sort of try to ask to establish that the assets you actually capture in assets they consider most critical. So could it be a portion of land? Could it be a house? Could it be stocks? Could it be investments, etc.? So you want to find out that. And then expenses, what are those things that actually take money out of the household in a normal week? So how much do they spend on food, clothing, transportation, rent, etc.? What financial tools do they have at their disposal? So these financial tools help you better understand what tools they actually use to manage their assets, their income, their expenses, as well as their overall economic aspirations. Now, the ecosystem map is also an extremely powerful tool that helps you actually see the actors and the relationships that actually come to play in defining the economic and the financial life of your customer. So what the ecosystem map does is that it actually enables you as a financial service provider to actually surface opportunities across the ecosystem where products and services may actually address challenges and leverage positive relationships or improve negative relationships. So what you essentially do in this ecosystem map is that you use noun cards that sort of define, various players and roles in the individual or household's financial ecosystem. And what you do is you place these cards in their order of closeness to the individual. So it could be a rotating savings scheme, a cooperative, a bank, a mobile network operator, an insurer, a family, a school, an informal money lender, a credit provider, or even friends and neighbors. Now, the synthesis stage is an extremely important stage of the research. Now, what happens during synthesis? During synthesis, all the team members come together and then they collaboratively try to make sense of the data they gathered during customer research. Now, what does synthesis help to do? Synthesis helps to create a coherent summary and interpretation of research findings. Another thing synthesis does is that it actually helps teams reach a consensus on what the most compelling customer insights are. So when teams actually sit down to carry out this synthesis, they're sort of trying to ask, what are the big issues we actually identified or pinpointed in today's study? What are the major problems? What are the desires? What are the aspirations? And synthesis typically should be continuous and should always involve all members of the team. Now, creating personas. Now, it's very important you do not confuse a persona with a target market. Now, the synthesis process helps you actually define profiles of potential customer segments. So what a persona does is that a persona tries to pictorially represent and highlight the basic demographic as well as financial, aspirational, and behavioral characteristics of a potential customer in the total target audience group you're going to be engaging. And personas are usually in-depth, they are specific, and they speak to the needs and aspirations of specific segments that you have identified. Now, what's the value of personas? Personas help you, look again at customers. Okay, Bokang is asking, would you say personas are the same as profiles? So personas are not exactly profiles, but personas are very high-level pictorial representations of profiles of target segments you're going to be trying to reach. So I'm going to show you what a persona looks like in the next slide. So we're coming there and you'll sort of understand. Now, a persona provides a lens through which you better understand experiences, perspectives that may govern a person's experience using financial tools and meeting their needs and their goals. Typically, you use personas developed to anticipate biases and experiences for each persona along the entire client journey. And then by understanding the assumptions you're making about your clients, it actually helps provide a safe space or context within which you can actually develop a hypothesis around who this customer is, what this customer wants, what this customer's fears and aspirations are, and it also gives you room for more rigorous testing. So let's look at a persona worksheet, a sample persona worksheet. Now, this individual is named Victoria Oko. She's 21 years old. She's female. Her educational level is high school. She lives in an urban area and she's employed full-time. Now you see the key insight. She sees businesses as the foundation for her future financial security. And she realizes a business requires money in addition to an idea and careful planning. Now, her aspirations are defined as primarily savings, and she's also taking concrete steps towards starting a pedicure business, saving to go to the university, and also interested in building her skills to become a specialist in the pedicure business. Now, currently, she earns about $111 a month, which is about 40,000 Naira a month. She enjoys a bit of OPM, other people's money. So she lives with her aunt and uncle. Rent is free. Gets support for food and cash in times of needs, especially when she's between jobs. She has friends that also help finance small purchases, sometimes infrequently. Her level of comfort with technology use is medium to high, of course, expectedly for her age. What are some of her challenges? So she's changed jobs quite a bit. Monthly salary is the way the income comes in Nigeria. And then sometimes payments actually come late, so sometimes you're actually in the red, and it's a lot harder to manage your finances. So expenses include food, personal care, clothing, sundry, telephone bills, remittances to her mother, examination, training lessons, etc. And then level of comfort with financial tools is also low to medium. So this is sort of a persona example that sort of helps you take a sneak peek into understanding who this customer is and what are the customer's personal information, key insights from the customer, aspirations, challenges, income, expenses, level of comfort with technology, and level of comfort with financial tools. So right now we'll go into a breakout activity where we will role play interviews and then create personas. So I'll call on my colleague Ibuku to come and manage this process, while I would also be going around the group. So as usual, as was the case yesterday, we're going to have representatives from LBS and IPA in each of the groups actually managing and supervising the group activities. So Ibuku, how long is the breakout group activity going to take?
We have about 40 minutes.
Okay, great. So we take the breakout before the break, right?
Yes.
Okay, so let's get into our breakout rooms, please. Now, the guidelines for the breakout groups. Emmanuel, do you want to speak to that?
Nebukun will do that. I just wanted to say before the breakout, I'm dropping so that people don't complain that they didn't get the link to the worksheet. So I'm dropping all the links now. So you just click on your group, then you're able to access the materials for your breakout room. So
okay,
you
please do that dropping now before we.
Yes, I'm doing that already. So group 1 is already dropped. So you maintain your groups as you did yesterday, same group. Okay. The way you work yesterday, you're going to retain those grouping.
Okay, good.
So Ibuku, if you are here, over to you.
Yeah, so
Emmanuel, you're here to drop group 3's link anyway.
Yes, I just dropped the third one now.
Okay, thank you. So Ibuku, please go ahead and break us up.
Oh, sorry, Ibuku, I've created the breakout rooms. It's just to give them the, Dr. Nkem, I think you wanted to give them the rules for the activities or something like that.
No. I said, no, you guys should go ahead and give the rules.
Okay, Ibuku, over to you.
Yeah, so we're just going to be practicalizing what Dr. Nkem has been explaining to us over the past like 10 to 15 minutes. And there will be people in the groups to, sort of handhold and manage that process. So once you are invited to your breakout room, you can just enter and you can begin.
So just to add to what Ibukun has said, in essence, because it's a small team, we primarily need someone to volunteer, right? Okay, don't worry, when we get to the group, we'll explain. So I'm opening up the group now.
So
Quickly
sorry,
do
just to
that.
clarify, at the end of the breakout activity, we should have a persona. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes. So one person will be interviewing a member of the group, right? And based on the information that is gathered, we'll create a persona, for a persona for that customer. So take, for instance, if Lisole is the customer we're interviewing, we want to create a persona, for Lisole. So that's what we're going to be, but we'll guide you through the entire process. So please just accept your invitation to join your group. Okay. Bokang, Sally. Okay, Sally has joined. Sichaba. Sichaba, you are yet to join. Ibuku, are you here? Okay, Ibuku is gone. So which group has Ibuku gone to? Group 2. Okay, Timothy is in group 3. Fantastic. So let me.
Great. Well, back. Hello.
Yes, that we are all back.
Isn't that the bag?
So before I actually, yeah, thank you. So before I actually break out, I want to first of all ask generally, what were the most interesting highlights of this exercise? I'm sure you guys have so much to say.
Being the interviewer was great.
Wow, Bokang. So Bokang, what were the great highlights of the exercise?
Oh, we had a candidate that just, or my customer rather, just gave away all the details about himself. So we were able to get to understand him better as a customer. He was just spilling it out there.
Awesome.
No,
Okay.
he gave us facts. He was able to tell us the assets, determine the assets that he has, the aspirations, the things that he wants to do, and what he considered to be the limitations. So if you look at the ecosystem and many other things that we need, I think we were on track to understand him and have in mind the type of a product that could probably, answer his needs.
This is fantastic. So Bokang, just sort of iterating and digging in a bit deeper. What insights have this presented or provided in your product development process? What are you going to do differently?
I think
what fresh insight do you have now of this customer that you didn't have, when you were selling the prior product in LPB?
Okay. I think getting information directly from the customer broadens my understanding of what he actually needs, as opposed to what I would have assumed he wanted. So that brings clarity then to say I get to really understand my target customer and not make decisions for him on the basis of I think, yeah.
Bokang, thank you so much for this. This is really, really useful. Can someone else also speak? I'm sure lots of us have great things to say. Sechaba, go ahead.
Okay, what I liked most about the customer is that his aspiration or her aspirations were so good that he would help the bank, she would help the bank to make an informed decision, because knowing his challenges, her challenges, that means as a bank we'll be able to make or come up with a solution for her challenges.
Great, great, great. Great, great. So, Ibuku. Hello, Ibuku.
Yeah, I'm here.
Is this, are we on time for the break? Or not yet? How many more minutes do we have till we get to break time?
1 minute.
That's like we're already on break.
We can go for a break now.
Okay, so we should go for a break now, right? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
10 minutes.
Okay, so our break is going to be 10 minutes, right?
Yes.
Not applicable to group 2 though.
Sorry,
Wow.
Bokan,
No break for group 2, please.
what offense did group 2 commit?
They are not deserving, those people. They can just stay in class forever, can't they?
We're done.
Oh,
We are
man.
done with our task.
We're done, man. I think
We are done.
you're the one who was
100%
supposed to
done.
take one.
You can say that again. You can say that again.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So let's take a 10-minute break now. And then we'll come back with, and move into the customer journey mapping process.
All right.
Great. So we'll be back at, I think it's 3:35.
Yeah. So we're back in 10 minutes.
Pieces. I think that it's really interesting to take this perspective to think about the customer from a very specific decision-making perspective. And so this journey that we talk about is really from the point at which customers make decision to do something. So if they need to send a money transfer, we really think about every step along the process, from the first thought of I need to send somebody money all the way through the money was successfully delivered. There are a lot of decisions that have to be made along the way. And from a financial service perspective, you really want to understand what are those specific decisions the customer makes. And specifically, what are those decisions that involve you? So it might be that the customer, their next door neighbor is going to the same village that they want to send money to, and they don't even think about Postbank because they can just give the money directly to their neighbor and the money is already transferred. So you want to think at which point is Postbank involved? How does the customer think about making decisions to do a financial transaction? When is Postbank involved? And how can you make sure that at each and every step, Postbank is the first thought that they have, and this is where they're going to make their decision with. So you really want to think about it from their perspective, how they engage with the company at each of these steps. Okay. The next slide. So if you think about, so if you think about the customer journey map, we want to think about those steps that I just mentioned. So you think about a specific financial transaction, and a very simple one is to take a transfer. So if I want to send money there are multiple people that I would probably want to send money to. Maybe it's to my mom who lives far away, or maybe it's to my son or daughter who are at school and need some cash. So depending on what the decision is, you want to think about it from that customer's perspective. So sending money to my mom who is far away is probably going to be a different set of decision-making steps than it is to send, my maybe 17-year-old son who is trying to just pay for something at a market. So you want to think through those steps that they take, the options that the customers have. So in the case of a transfer, you have multiple options. I can send it on my phone. I can send it directly from the bank. I can give it to a friend or a neighbor who happens to be going along the way. What does the customer think about at each of those steps? They're probably considering things like the cost or the fees that are involved. They're thinking about safety or security. So while it's free to send it to my neighbor, to give it to my neighbor to send to my mom, maybe the last time I gave that money to my neighbor, it didn't actually get there because the neighbor forgot to give it to my mom or spent it on some snacks along the way, or whatever the case may be. So you want to think about those types of decisions that are made. The last time that they interacted with the bank to send money to a friend or a family member, what worked well? What were some of the problems along the way? Did they go to send the money and the money actually went to the wrong account? Maybe the customer gave the wrong account number, or maybe it inadvertently went to someone else's account, and it took the customer a couple of days to fix that problem. How much did it cost the customer in time or in fees? What worked well? If it's really easy to do, they can just walk down the street, go to an agent, and do a very quick money transfer, and it works very well. It's very cheap, it's very easy, and their mom gets the money in the same instant. That's going to be something that they remember, and they're able to, you can build off of that relationship. So you want to identify the opportunities along each of those, and you want to think about any of the inconsistencies in service delivery, whether that's through customer service directly, through technical service delivery. Maybe the operations didn't quite work out. You want to think about all of those steps. Maybe the mobile network was down at that time, and then you want to think through all of these opportunities that exist, new improvements that can be made. Is it a problem with with the cost? Is it a problem with the delivery itself? Is it that there are too many errors, that there are inconsistencies in how it's delivered? So thinking through each of these decision points that the customer makes is really important. Okay, then I think the next, is this back to you, Lagos?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Catherine. So just building off the back of the very wonderful explanation Catherine gave, the key elements of the customer journey map actually start from awareness. So you're sort of trying to ask and answer, how does the customer get aware of this product or service? So the key question you want to ask is, how do you actually create awareness? Through what channels? Through what touch points? So how does your customer interact with his or her environment? And how do you make the knowledge of the presence of this product or service visible throughout all those touch points through which your customer interacts? Now, also, how do you create customer thoughts? So it's important you log into your customers' minds and sort of try to ask and answer the questions even before they ask them, by asking, what are your customers thinking? And at the awareness stage, at the onboarding stage, at the stage of adoption, which is first time use, at the stage of sustained use, and then at the stage of advocacy, it's very important you ask and answer all these questions. So along the vertical axis, you're sort of trying to ask across awareness, knowledge, onboarding, getting the customer to understand the product, getting the customer to sign up to the system, first time use, getting the customer to use the product the first time, sustained use, getting the customer to adopt and deepen their use of this product or service, advocacy, getting the customer as a recruited advocate who is even using word of mouth to also propagate the good news about this product or service throughout their context, across their social networks, their immediate environments, their social groups, to mention but a few. So the questions you're going to try to ask and answer across each of these 5 stages across the customer journey map are: what are the key moments? What are the touch points? What is the customer thinking? How does the customer feel? And what opportunities do you actually have to turn negative experiences into positive experiences at each of these stages? So it's not just going to be enough to roll out your product and just deploy the product. It's important you also ask, how will the customers journey through the various stages of awareness, onboarding, first time use, sustained use, and advocacy in the use of this product? So LPB has to become scientific in designing these experiences. So when you become scientific in designing these experiences, you become a lot more intentional as to how the customer actually journeys through all of these stages. So, a very good example of customer journey mapping is a particular product. So awareness. So what are the touch points through which a particular customer gets aware of this product? So what are the touch points? So here you have touch points like billboards, doing, and where does this customer interact with this touch point? On a daily commute to work, ISA sees the billboard. So you have to make sure this billboard is positioned strategically such that ISA is able to see it on his way to work, whether he's in public transportation, whether he's driving his personal car, or whether he's riding a motorbike, or even whether he's commuting on foot or riding a bicycle. So you have to make sure that this touch point is visible enough for ISA to actually communicate with. Now, you also have to make sure that this touch point is ambivalent and connects to ISA's aspirations. Quotes, this Lagos, if you get money from phone. So what that essentially tries to say is, so this of course is a digital financial product where you're sort of trying to connect to the aspirations of the target customer that you're actually trying to reach. And what are the opportunities? You have opportunities to actually communicate product benefits, communicate product attributes, communicate product information. And all of this you do at the awareness stage. Now, at the onboard stage, what's the touch point for onboarding? The touch point for onboarding in this case is an agent kiosk. Now, at the agent kiosk, what is the customer expected to do? The customer is expected to pass the store of his neighborhood agent and see the sticker. Now, the sticker now becomes the touch point that now directs the customer to that particular touch point. And then what are the feelings you expect, or what are the feelings you elicit? The feelings you elicit is further surprise. Oh my goodness, this concept or this phenomenon that looked distant from the billboard now looks a lot more relatable. And I can see it, I can feel it, I can connect to it, given its location. And then, you also have some quotes. And this quote is, in conventional Nigerian, what we call Nigerian broken English. Now, wow, this billboard where they see every day don't reach here too. So what that simply means is this same billboard I get to see everywhere is now here with me online real time. And the opportunity here is for the agent at that kiosk to actually sign up ISA and get ISA to register for the use. Now, first use. And what's the touch point for first use? The sign up is to get ISA to get to use this product on his mobile phone. The first use now has the touch point of his mobile phone. And what happens at the, with that first mobile phone, ISA is now going to be expected to try out the product. And if and when this product actually delivers and works, the feeling is supposed to be a feeling of excitement. Oh my gosh, so I'm able to succeed in using this product. This product is able to help me consummate my transactions. This product is able to help me succeed in achieving the goals I set out. And the quotes here include, me too, cuckoo tester. After all, I need small money for pocket. So what this quote also means is, I've also been able to test this product, and ultimately I'm able to see that I actually have some money in my pocket. And the opportunity here is a teaching moment for Issa, the user, to actually learn to use the product. Now, that's first use. Now, sustained use now moves to a second type of use case. And the second type of use case is, or rather, we have two use cases here in the use, under sustained use. And remember, the touch point is still the mobile phone. And the two use cases include receiving salary and then paying back an interest and principal portion of an existing loan. Yeah. And then the feeling here is a little bit of sadness, a little bit of joy, and a little bit of remorse. And the question, the quote here is, the money helped me, Shana, I must pay them small, small. So the question is, this fantastic device has made it possible for me to receive my salary, and now I'm required to actually pay back a loan I have little by little. And then the opportunity here are notices on loan repayment benefits. So here you can give those opportunities like, eligibility to qualify for a rollover of the credit, eligibility to qualify for further subsequent loans down the chain, the opportunity to actually extend the loan and then, move to other areas of use or utilization. Advocacy. Now, advocacy, the touch point in advocacy, remember, is in what? Telling the story, storytelling, propagating the good news. And what happens here is that Issa reflects as he has diligently completed his loan payments. And the feeling is quite reflective. And the quote here is, wow, this product actually saved me, or else, how else was I going to be able to pay this loan off? So, the quote in broken English is, this gang saved me, oh, what else can I do it for my life? And the opportunities here are opportunities to actually offer additional credit and other services. So LPB, for all of the new products you're going to be creating using human-centered design, you actually have to map with intentionality the customer journey map. This customer journey map has to show you all the stages of awareness, onboarding, first use, sustained use. Sustained use should also speak to multiple use cases and then advocacy. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to go back into our groups using the same idea we generated, fleshed out into a concept, tested concept, and the learning agenda. We would now use the worksheets to now create customer journey maps. So what we're going to try to do in this breakout activity is that we're going to try to achieve two objectives. The first objective is to complete the persona development we started. And the second activity will be to create the customer journey map. And we have only 25 minutes. So Emmanuel, can you share the links to the Google Drive on the chat? And then we quickly jump into our groups. This is really getting very exciting. I'm so excited and charged up with today's work. Emmanuel, are you there? Hello? Okay, it seems Emmanuel is not here. Ibukun, have you shared the link to the Google Drives for this breakout activity?
No, but they'll get it when they get to their breakout rooms.
Okay, that's fine, but it's always tidier to put it here, but it's okay, it's fine.
Is being recorded. Has stopped. This meeting is being recorded.
Can we share out some of our experiences in building the customer journey map? Can we have some comments?
Okay, maybe I can say we learn how a client is able to identify certain product that will assist him to achieve their goal. For instance, for a client who want to save in the interest of purchasing a house from his savings, we were going through the process where the client would be able to select that savings account, and then we will also go through the onboarding part of that client from the time when the client go to the bank. Yes, I think the team will assist me.
Great, 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 great. Quite exciting. Can we hear from someone else? Sorry, what group is this? Mocho, what group are you in?
Group 1, room 1, I can say.
Great, great. So can we hear from group 2?
Okay, from group 2, we do have the target for the women who are going to the business of farming. So that's our target. So what we agreed is that we need to know where they are residing. So how are we going to onboard these customers? We decided that we can go and visit those customers at their farms, at their villages, to open accounts. We can also do the loan applications from those farms. So where those farmers are closest to the branches, then we can send them to the nearest branches to do the applications.
Great, great.
So how we are going to advertise or create awareness, we are going to use the radios. We are also going to use the social media platforms or the social gatherings just to create awareness about the product that we offer.
Great, great, great. This is good. This is good. Can we hear from group 3? Ibuku, can you start sharing slides for Kate, please? Yeah, group 3, please go ahead.
All right, so
I think.
Group 3.
Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Nadetisa, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I think we've seen how important it is to correctly position our touch points for create awareness. So having ourselves fitting into the customer's shoes and thinking like the customer, how would they feel, and indeed helps us to better position our product. Thank you.
Great, 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 great. So ladies and gentlemen, I think we've had a rather interesting and useful time, drilling into these issues. And I mean, I think it's good. It's good. It's good. I mean, I'm quite excited. So in the interest of time, we're actually 8 minutes already spilling over. I'll hand over to Catherine now, who will take us through understanding gender barriers. Catherine, are you ready to go?
Yes, definitely. And you can go to the next slide. Yeah, I will be quick about this. We have a lot of materials up on the website, so you can read about this a bit further. But I think the important, there's really one important takeaway that I want everybody to understand and to think about over the next couple of days is that gender neutrality, when designing financial products, gender neutrality and gender intentionality are really not the same thing. That we want to think about, so we hear from banks a lot that they make really good financial products. Our savings product is the best. Our loan is the best loan that's out there. It's a loan. It has great, there are great terms to this loan. Everybody's going to love it. And it's open to men and women equally. We do not, have any bias against men or women, and everybody can come in and use our product. And that is considered gender neutral way to go about having financial products. It doesn't quite tell the whole story though. And that, the reality of the world is that there are differences between men and women. If you treat men and women the same, you're kind of in the same, if you're treating the same challenges for men and women, then you're not recognizing that they actually have the same, that they're facing the same types of challenges. So we see that there are differences. And I can give you an example. In other countries where I do some work during the pandemic, paying G2P payments, government to person payments over the pandemic was mainly done on digital platforms. So the government would send beneficiaries money directly on their mobile phones. That's seen as gender neutral. There are mobile phone agents everywhere. They're in rural areas and urban areas. Anybody can walk out of their home and walk to a store nearby and either cash out or access their mobile money account. However, that's not always, it doesn't necessarily mean the product or the usage of it is gender neutral. That, we see in some markets, men and women do not own phones at the same rate. Literacy levels can be quite different between genders. So in some markets, women have a much lower literacy level. So if you're required to read a mobile phone menu, you're not able to if you're illiterate. Therefore, the product is not actually gender neutral if many more women are illiterate than men. So we don't want to make assumptions about the different challenges that people face in coming to use these financial products, and we want to make sure that there's a gender intentional design behind the product so that you're actually able to meet people where their needs are, and you can create a product that is open to men and women equally. Let's actually skip ahead to a few slides. The one with the gender barriers. If you can go, it's about 3 slides. Yeah, that one. Yep, that works. So we do see that there are different types of barriers that women specifically face. Sometimes, depending on different countries, there are ID requirements. But a lot of time, the one that we see most commonly is around asset ownership, specifically for collateral. So sometimes there are demand side barriers that don't allow women to own assets at the same rate as men, or don't allow women to own the same amount of land or houses. Sometimes there are legal barriers. We see that inheritance laws vary greatly from country to country. And sometimes when a family member dies and leaves their inheritance to their next of kin, women are either not able to inherit that land, or their brothers inherit greater amounts of that land. So women don't always have the same access to assets that men do. Therefore, they have less to collateralize, or they have nothing to collateralize. If they earn lower incomes, they'll have less ability to build up assets in their lives for potential collateral for a loan, or they will have assets such as jewelry or other types of assets that are not collateralized at the same rate as land or homes. So we see gender barriers here quite frequently. This is probably one of the biggest gender barrier that women face, is around assets and collateralized loans. So if we make just one loan product where the collateral requirements are the same for men and women, you're effectively basically biasing that loan against women. So we want to think about ways to make sure when we're designing a product that we really think about the needs of all of the customers that we want to attract. And there are a lot of different ways of doing that. If you go to the next slide, we actually see some studies. I put together some studies about research that has been done. These are actually experiments that have been done to show the differences between what men and women experience when you design the product a little bit differently. So what we're going to do is put all of these research papers up online. Obviously, this PowerPoint will be up online too, where it kind of gives you a synopsis and overview of what these studies show. So I don't want to go into too many of the details here now, because I know we're out of time, but we do want to just talk about in general that we see a lot of the gender barriers are not only the assets that I mentioned and being able to collateralize them, but we also see a lot of differences in time constraints between men and women, in the gender norms that women experience. So I gave the example of Esther, the brickmaker in Lesotho yesterday, who faced a lot of social norm barriers because she was working in a business that is typically male dominated. And so she faced a lot of adversity that way. We also see barriers around mobility, within communities or after dark. Women tend to have more mobility restrictions within areas than men do. And we see some resources, different levels of control over resources, particularly around household decision-making when it comes to finances and business decisions. So those are some of the barriers that we hear a lot about that women tend to face. One of the things that can help address that are different types of ways that you go about designing financial products. And so having a digital component to a lot of different financial products actually can, in many countries, including in Lesotho, can help women. It gives more privacy and more control. And one of the research examples, actually, if you jump ahead to slide 75, you can see that 74, we see that actually by putting in, by depositing some of the G2P payments directly into women's digital bank accounts, that we see not only do the women have more economic and household financial decision-making, but we also see that it actually affects the dietary choices. So we see that there's higher quality dietary choices being made for their children, and the children were actually eating more meals per day. And that's just by directly putting social payments into women's bank accounts versus men's. So we see that a lot of things change and happen as a result of having women come to the forefront of financial decision-making and designing financial products with them in mind. So that's just a very brief overview. As I said, we can, all of these PowerPoint slides will be available, and we can put the research studies online so you can read about them more. I think then, Neckham, does that wrap up things for today? Should I just prepare for our session again on Tuesday? Yeah, I think that's it. So there is homework to do. You'll be able to, once you log on to the e-platform, you'll be able to see the next day's session. Next week on Tuesday, we'll meet at the same time from 2 to 5 p.m. We'll be talking a bit more about this decision-making and what we call behavioral economics. We'll address some of the pain points that are frequently some of the frequent challenges that people face. And then we're actually going to start prototyping. So in our groups, we've already started talking about very specific financial products. We're going to take that a step further and start designing a brand new financial product, or thinking about a financial product you already have that you might want to tweak or make better and address some of these challenges that we've discussed. Is there anything else to include right now? Any questions? Neckham?
Not from me, Kate. I'm good.
Okay, great. Emmanuel or Timothy, I see that you're there. Anything?
I think that's all. If there are no questions, I think we can close for the day. Okay, Bokang's hand is up.
Yeah, that was a late reaction there, but yeah. So I was just wanting to understand that can we complete like the customer map, for example? God, am I saying it correctly now? But that
Customer
Excel,
journey map.
the customer journey map. Thank you. Can we complete that maybe and get to understand if we are on the right track and that we are covering the right factors? Can we pack? Okay.
No, absolutely. And I think before, so from now till Tuesdays is a bit long. We will really want to implore you that go back to eLearn. We've curated videos, so try and go through all the lessons that, like we said, not every content on eLearn is what is being delivered here. Okay, so you will be able to really understand more of what we're saying. There are additional materials. There is a link where there is a folder called further reading also. Just deep dive a little so that when we come, when we start prototyping, it becomes easy, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah.
So I expect us to squeeze out some time, maybe 2 hours during the rest of the week into next week, and be able to get something out of eLearn, because prototyping is really going to be very, very important. We be building real products that we hope at the end of the seminar, the workshop, you guys can, start thinking of how to take those products to market.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. I think that is the essence of my question, because I was just hoping that we would have the end in mind as we go through the processes. So yeah, thank you so much.
So again, while you are doing your customer journey mapping and household and ecosystem mapping, if you have any question, please, you have my number, my WhatsApp number. You can chat me up. You can send me an email. I'll be here to take your question. Okay. So just for those who may not have my number, if you need it, this is it on the WhatsApp chat. Sorry, the Zoom chat. 73. Yeah. Yes, there you go. You can send me a message on WhatsApp.
Happiness.
And I think we can send out an email with a reminder of what to review before the next session.
Yes, I'll do that later this evening.
Okay, any other questions?
Great. I think we're in pretty good shape, right?
I believe so too.
I feel so.
Wow. That's good. I don't know. Is there anything else we have today?
Nope.
All right. Okay. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I think today has been super exciting. And we've learned a great deal. Enjoy yourselves and God bless.
Thank you too, and bye-bye.
Bye.
Say that again.
Bye-bye.
May peace be with you.
Oh, okay, you are going to be my language instructor.
And please don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any questions whatsoever. We'll be more than happy to help.
All right, we appreciate that.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Ciao, ciao. Night, night.
Ciao, ciao.